Welcome back to For the Home Cook. Of course, the show is all about making things easy and simple, saving us some money on our grocery bills as things get higher and our budgets get tighter. So today we are continuing a series called Make It or Buy It, where I'm going to explore some things that you may have around the house and decide, should we make it from scratch from the stuff in our house or get the ingredients, or is it cheaper just to buy it at the store? So today we are going to live in kind of a dessert world to start off with. So I remember growing up, a lot of people, especially around the holidays, had these like bulk mixes for, biscuits or pancakes or waffles or hot chocolate or brownies or things like that. I know you can go to the store and you can buy these, multi-packs of mixes. And so I wanted to explore kind of one or two of these and then decide, is it cheaper or is it more cost effective for us to make it or just to buy it? So I like brownies. I know that that is one that can be made super, super fast. It's one that's probably made often in your home. And so that's what we're going to explore today, is making it from scratch and is it more cost effective. So this recipe is super, super simple when it comes to the dry ingredients, and then we'll talk about the wet ingredients that we're going to add together to actually make the brownies, and then we'll take a quick break, we'll come back, and then we'll talk about which one is more cost effective. So for the recipe in general, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take 2 cups of sugar. Now, this is something that you probably have in your home. You probably have a lot of sugar. And so this is a great opportunity to go ahead and use what we already have in our home. So especially if you're coming off the holiday or you're coming off of something where you had to bake a lot, you may have some extra sugar. You may just have sugar that's been in your house for too long, or, just look and you already have this. This is great, a great recipe for those of us who maybe need a brownie mix. Like, say the kids come home and all of a sudden they're like, hey, I needed 2 dozen brownies to take to school tomorrow. This is a great way to kind of go, okay, I think I have everything in my cabinet, so let's go ahead and make that. All right, so we're gonna go 1. Test the strength of my hand with this one. Okay, so 2 cups of that. Then we're gonna go 1 cup of cocoa powder. So if you're like me, you probably bought cocoa powder for that one thing, that one recipe, and now all of a sudden you haven't used it since then. I find myself that I have cocoa powder sitting up in the cabinet for long periods of time because I don't use it very often. So if that's you and you look up in the cabinet and all of a sudden you see you only have 2 months to use what is left of an entire thing of cocoa powder, this is a perfect time to go ahead and use that. I like cocoa powder. This is what we grew up using for like hot chocolate. My mom really loved like the cake, the chocolate cake and chocolate frosting that was on the back of it. So this is a great chance to use the rest of that if you have it in-house. A lot of people don't like it because obviously it's unsweetened, which is why we're putting like a bunch of sugar in here. So, you can take it or leave it. It's a little more difficult to work with just because it doesn't mix well with anything, but we'll do it just like this. So we're also going to do a cup of all-purpose flour. Once again, this is probably something that you already have in your house. So it's a great way to just use what we have. Then we're going to go with 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And then I've got in here some chocolate chips. So this is optional. If you bought chocolate chips for something and you have them left over, it's a great time to go ahead and use that into this recipe. You don't have to get chocolate chips, obviously. We're packing this thing full of chocolate, so it's not necessary to have chocolate chips. But if you have some, or if you want to buy some, you want to add just some extra to this recipe, you can. So this is it. This is it for the dry ingredients. So what's great about this is you could make this in several batches. You could put it into an airtight container. You can put it in the pantry, and then it's ready to go if you ever need to make brownies on a whim, either for the craving that you have at 9:57 at night, or the fact that the kids come home and all of a sudden you're supposed to have a bake sale at 8 a.m. tomorrow, and every store is about to close, or you just can't get out and about. So you can put this in an airtight container and then leave it just like this. And then when you're ready, just pour this out into a bowl and then do the thing that we are about to do, which is add the rest of the ingredients and make the actual brownie mix. So most of the time you can just get the box of brownies and then add all the things that we're about to add. We're going to see which actually taste better, and then look at the cost effectiveness, especially if you don't have these ingredients in your house. We'll look at, is it more cost effective to just go buy all of these things, or would it be more cost effective just to buy the box, because it's going to be too expensive to buy the ingredients by themselves. All right, so here's where we are. Next up in this, we are going to add a cup of oil. So this is vegetable oil. I don't know the debate about people using different types of oil into their cooking. I always just use vegetable oil instead of like canola, but I'm sure that you could use whatever it is that you have at home. I know people have allergies, or people have, their reason for buying different types, so you can absolutely do that. We're also going to add a teaspoon of vanilla. Now, I never measure this, so a capful is going in. We're also going to add 4 eggs. Now, if you're worried about cracking the shell into these, then you can absolutely put these into a bowl, crack them into a bowl, put them in here one by one. I'm just going to play Ultimate Fighter with the eggs. I always like to see if one egg can make it through cracking all of the other ones. So that's the game that I play, because my life is sad. So far, so good. I'm also just going to look and make sure that I'm not leaving eggshells in there. If you're not going crazy, they should be fine. All right, 3, and here's our last one. Almost Ultimate Fighter. Okay, if you throw the whole eggshell in there, just make sure you take that out too. Okay, so we've got our eggs in there, and then we are going to wash our hands, because obviously we're working with eggs. And then we're going to add 2 tablespoons of water. And then that's it. So you're going to get a pan, whatever size of pan that you have, just depending on how thick that you want your brownies to be. I think that's in like 8 by 8 or a 7 by 7 pan. So you can use whatever, a 13 by 9, an 8 by 8, 9 by 9, really whatever you have up in your cabinet. Make sure that you spray it with some nonstick spray, or, coat it with some butter or some nonstick something on the bottom. And then once again, the chocolate chips. I have some mini, just semi-sweet chocolate chips. I would say put about half a cup. I don't know, that looks like half a cup to me. Let your heart decide on this one. The chocolate chips obviously are optional. That is going to obviously raise the cost of this, so you do not have to add that in there. But it adds just some extra chocolate to it. If you have different chocolate chips, like the white chocolate chips, or they have peanut butter flavor or cream cheese flavored, Butterfinger flavor. I mean, they have all sorts of flavors of chocolate chips now. They have like peppermint ones. So you could add any and all of those that you have, but obviously if you don't want to, you're gonna have plenty of chocolate in here. So the chocolate chips are not absolutely necessary. So with any batter, obviously you wanna try not to overmix it. But you do wanna mix it well. The last thing that you're gonna want is to get a whole bite of some unsweetened cocoa powder. I don't care how much sugar you put in this mix. That's not gonna be good to eat. It's gonna be very bitter. So these are going to be, as you can see, probably some really thick, consistent brownies. So if you're looking at this and you're like, ooh, I don't know about like the fudgy, really thick consistency of brownie, you can add a little bit more water just to get that kind of less thick consistent of brownies. So I've got my oven on 350. I'm gonna spray my pan with some nonstick. And then we're gonna put the batter in here. I have a feeling this is gonna be a lot of batter. I would probably put this in a 9 by 13 pan. I can tell you from making a batch from a box last night, this is definitely a little bit more batter than you would get out of a box, which is great if you're looking to make more. But we're gonna watch this pan because that might pop out of that pan. So I would maybe do this in a 9 by 13 or at least a 9 by 9, just to get a few extra inches on each side. Okay, so this will go in the oven. We're gonna go 350 for about 18 to 22 minutes. Obviously, you're gonna check those in the middle, check the outside, make sure everything is cooked. So we're gonna put this off to the side. Actually, let's take a break. We're gonna come back. We're gonna talk about brownies, whether you should make them from a box or make the mix. We'll do some price comparison, and then obviously we'll wait 18 to 22 minutes for these to be done, but we'll be right back. Welcome back to For the Home Cook. Of course, we are doing a make it or buy it segment. We're talking about brownie mix. We're talking about just kind of those bread or dessert mixes in bulk in general. So a lot of these are going to be based in flour and sugar and the things that you may have at home, salt, baking powder, baking soda, those sorts of things. So when you are thinking about the things in your house that you eat consistently, so if it's biscuits or pancakes or waffles or brownies or whatever it may be, think about and kind of write down maybe some ingredients that you have at home and see if it's more cost effective just to make it at home, or if it's more cost effective to go out, buy all the ingredients, or is it more cost effective just to buy it in the store, either already made or in a box, and that way you can make it that way instead of from scratch. So when we talk about brownie mix in bulk, this is our example today. Let's do a cost comparison. So if you were to make it at your home, if you had none of the ingredients that we listed before, so we're talking flour, unsweetened cocoa, sugar, eggs, oil, all of that kind of stuff. If you were to go out and need to buy all of that firsthand, you're gonna spend $22. Now, you're like, whoa, that's a lot. Yeah, you're buying a whole thing of flour, you're buying a whole thing of sugar, you're buying a whole thing of vegetable oil, you're buying eggs. So all of that together is gonna cost you about $22. Now, let's say you had the ingredients at your house, or maybe you're missing one, like the chocolate chips, or just the vanilla, or anything like that. It's gonna cost you about $5.50, $5.50, to just have the ingredients at your house. So that is probably you have flour, sugar, and you have the cocoa powder, but you don't have the oil or the eggs. So you're gonna spend about $5.50 if you have to go out and buy a lot of those items you probably don't have at home. So if we talk about the box, so let's say we get a box of brownie mix. If you don't have the ingredients to add to that, so we're talking eggs, oil, water, those extras that you have to add to the box, you're probably gonna spend about $9 to get those, because eggs, obviously, you're probably gonna get, the least you can get is a 6-pack, so that's about $1.50. Any vegetable oil that you buy is going to be $3, almost $4, unless you get the cheap, like the really, really tiny one, but hopefully it'll be enough. And then we talk about vanilla. You don't have to have vanilla. So you're gonna spend anywhere between maybe $5 to $9, just depending on what you have at your house. Now, if you had the ingredients at your house and you just need the mix, you're gonna spend anywhere between $1 and $3 just to get the mix. Obviously, if you get the off-brand, it's gonna cost you a little bit less than it is the name brand. I looked at, okay, if we're gonna get like the most expensive type, you're gonna spend about $3. So I would say in this instance, unless you have some award-winning brownie mix that you just cannot part with, go ahead and get the box. It's gonna taste just as good. You're going to probably need 1 or 2 ingredients anyway, but why would you, spend a whole bunch of money on stuff just to have in your cabinet? Like I said, a lot of us buy, cocoa or buy flour or those sorts of ingredients for that one thing, and now we're stuck with an entire container of cocoa powder and you may not ever use it again. So unless you're just like, I'm going to make brownies a lot this year, or if you're like, I just love this recipe, go ahead and just get the box. I promise you, it's not going to be like any worse unless you just overcook it or mess it up. It's not gonna be any worse than whatever you're gonna make in a bowl with the ingredients that you either do or do not have. So make it or buy it. I would just buy it. I think it's gonna cost you less, especially in ingredients and especially in the long run of having to make the mix and then add everything else to it. If you get a box, you just put that in there, put 3 things, mix it up, put it in the oven, and call it good. So in this instance, I would say buy it, but we're gonna have some more recipes as we go and make it or buy it. So I have all of the comparisons below. I have the recipe below. If you look into your cabinet and you find that you have all of the ingredients to make this, you can absolutely do that and save yourself a little bit of money. But for now, make it or buy it. I would buy it, and this is For the Home Cook. We'll see you next time.